Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Renting Essentials Living in San Francisco session. Today, we are joined by Mike Simpson. My name is Yari Gallegos, and I'm the Assistant Director for Alumni Engagement, focusing on the student to alumni transition for your Northwestern Alumni Association. We'll begin shortly, but first, a few housekeeping items I'd like to share with you. If you have any questions for Mike, and we will be making time for those at some point during this session, feel free to use the chat or come off mute when that time comes. Otherwise, we kindly ask that you please stay on mute just to avoid any background noise during the session. And then a link to today's resources will be sent to all registrants after the event. We are so excited that Mike could join us for this great topic. So a little more about our speaker. Mike Simpson is a leasing agent at Rent SF Now and the host of the Apartment Renter podcast. Over the last 6.5 years, Mike has leased over 1,000 apartments in San Francisco and Oakland. And in his position, he's been able to meet people from all over the world and from all types of socioeconomic backgrounds. With San Francisco being such a unique place, Mike's area of expertise is helping clients figure out the lay of the land and answering lease questions. Now I'm going to hand it over to our presenter. Thank you so much for being here, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Yari. That was a nice introduction. So I've been a leasing agent for a while. And so, moving to a big city like San Francisco can be a little overwhelming. So we'll just go ahead and get started on this presentation. And usually in these pictures here is a picture of one of our different properties all throughout the city. So move my screen a little bit. So here's just a slide about what we're going to be talking about. This is another property up in Nob Hill, 1369 Hyde. Lots of different units there. Who we are and why we're different. So who we are, Rent SF Now we're a leasing company, and we're part of a bigger umbrella of the property management and ownership company. And the cool thing about us is when you call us and you're looking for something, maybe a specific unit, and it doesn't work out, we got many, many, many more. So we are the largest landlord in San Francisco as far as like number of properties we manage and have availability. And most of the properties are located in like the key neighborhoods throughout San Francisco, which is kind of cool too. So it's going to be, even though San Francisco is not a huge city as far as size wise, we have properties in most of the more iconic neighborhoods. And another thing too, obviously you can kind of see the kitchens upgraded here. A lot of these properties are built in the early 1900s. And that's where most of the cool neighborhoods are. They're built around the early 1900s, but we do renovate them. We keep the old stuff like old windows and molding and stuff like that. And we do upgrade the kitchens and bathrooms and walls and electrical and plumbing and like all the important stuff. So like I said, we have leasing and property management services. So when you do give us a call, you're going to be connected with the leasing agent. And after you move in, you're going to be dealing with the property management, but we're all, like I said, under one umbrella. This is kind of those little dots are where our buildings are. And you can kind of see, San Francisco, they call it 7 by 7, 7 miles by 7 miles. The majority of our apartments are clustered here in the Tenderloin, downtown, Lower Nob Hill area. And many people that are coming to the city for the first time for a new job end up in this neighborhood because typically you're working in the financial district, and it's nice to be able to get to work easily, especially if you have a new hectic job and don't have to go that far to get back home. And there's lots to do in this neighborhood as well. And then you can kind of see it spread out. There's so much to see in San Francisco. Every time I go down a street, there's like something new that I missed. And I've been doing this for 6 years. So there's a lot to see. And there's also a lot of different neighborhoods. For the most part, most people kind of stick for hanging out in kind of where these dots are. As you get out to outer Sunset, it's a little more residential over in outer Richmond. Down here is a little more industrial. I'm kind of going all over the place, but we'll touch on each neighborhood in a little bit. Neighborhood living, as you can see, you got lots of old Victorian types of buildings and apartment buildings here. And we're not like a cookie cutter apartment complex where you can just look at a model apartment and then figure out which floor you want to live on. Like every building has a different layout because people lived a lot differently 100 years ago than they do today. Like 100 years ago, you didn't want to be able to see where the food is being made. But nowadays, you want to have an open kitchen. So some things are separated in some apartments, and some we've opened up and remodeled so it's more open kitchen to living room and things like that. Living in San Francisco, this is a view from the Mission neighborhood. I kind of touched on where our buildings are, but we have like thousands of apartments available. So based on price and neighborhood, maybe you know someone that lives in a certain neighborhood, you want to live near them, we can always find you something. I've kind of segmented the next parts into different neighborhood clusters. So I briefly touched on the Tenderloin, downtown and Lower Nob Hill. So if you look in the news, you probably see a lot about possibly homeless people. That's mostly in the Tenderloin, and that's where you're going to find your cheapest neighborhood. But the Tenderloin isn't like that big. It's very central to the city where it's kind of flat by Market Street. And you do have your homeless there, but you also have your cheaper apartments. And then you get into the downtown neighborhood, which is just, a few blocks up. You're starting to go up the hill a tiny bit. You're still close to the financial district. And they call it downtown, but it's just another neighborhood. It's not really like a downtown for a typical city. It's close to other downtowns, if that makes sense. But then, prices go up a little bit. It gets a little bit nicer. And then you walk up the hill a little bit more and you get to Lower Nob Hill. Prices get a little bit more, but you're also up the hill. You're getting farther away from the homeless. And there's lots to do in these neighborhoods. There's lots of bars and restaurants and coffee shops and a lot of cool stuff. A lot of public transportation as well. Russian Hill, Marina, and Pacific Heights. These are probably some of the nicest neighborhoods in San Francisco. Also, some of the priciest because Pacific Heights, you're getting way up the hill. Marina is on the north side of the city. And there's lots of nice restaurants and yoga places, workout spots, bars and restaurants too. A little more in the Marina, I will say it is a little hard to get to other parts of the city because you have to go over quite a big hill to get to the other neighborhoods sometimes. And then Russian Hill is basically an extension of Nob Hill going north. So there's lots of views up there. There's lots of again, bars, restaurants, coffee shops. You can kind of find that everywhere, but it does get a little quieter because you do have to go up the hill to get there. There's some nice homes up there too. And then we have Hayes Valley, Mission, Castro, and Noe Valley. I kind of clumped these together because this is kind of on the south of Market. It gets pretty good weather in these places. It's also very flat. So between these neighborhoods, you can walk, you can bike, you can skate, you can take public transportation. And it's just a little different vibe in these neighborhoods from the other neighborhoods as well. Again, there's lots of neighborhoods, but they're actually very close. You could almost walk all these neighborhoods in a couple hours. You'd be a little tired, but they're pretty close together. And then you get Alamo Square, NOPA, which stands for North of Panhandle, and Haight-Ashbury. Alamo Square, that's where the Painted Ladies are, Full House. That's a pretty cool neighborhood. It's friendly. And then as you go west from there, you come into NOPA, which is the beginning of Golden Gate Park on the north side of it. So just a little vibe, a different vibe. It's a little more calm than being, in the downtown or Nob Hill area. Things get a little bit more spread out. Prices also go up a little bit over there too. So something to consider. And then I grouped together the Outer Sunset and Richmond District. So you've got Golden Gate Park, and on the south of that, you got the Sunset neighborhood. On the north of that, you got the Richmond District. And as you get more and more close to the coast, it gets a little more, it's a little more family oriented out there. There's less and less clusters of coffee shops and stuff like that. It's also a nice neighborhood. Gets a little foggy out there, a little colder than you might notice a 10-degree difference between there and the downtown or Mission area as well. And then we got Oakland. So Oakland is on the other side of the bay. Oakland is really great too. It's got a little more, it's a little more spread out, a little cooler vibe, you get a little more bang for your buck too. So if you're looking for a 1-bedroom, you can usually find a nice size 1-bedroom out there for around, 22, 23, 2,400. Don't sleep on Oakland. Sometimes people always ask, oh, what do you got in the outer Sunset? I'm like, have you considered Oakland? Because it'd be quicker to get to Financial District from Oakland than it is outer Sunset because of all the traffic and public transportation and things like that. And the weather changes in Oakland too. It's really nice. It can get warmer in the summer for sure. A little colder in the winter. You're talking like 85 as a high, probably 45 as a low. And you can always take BART from Oakland to San Francisco pretty easily too. Here's a little map of kind of where things are at. Obviously, we got San Francisco up here, and there's lots of companies. But as you go down, you got YouTube in San Bruno, GoPro, Visa in Foster City. Coming down the peninsula here, you got Facebook, of course, in Palo Alto. And then down in San Jose, you got all the other Silicon Valley companies. And then they got Pixar over here in Emeryville. Here's a quick map. When you get to San Francisco, or sorry, this is the whole Bay Area for most of the bigger places, because there's companies all over these public transportation. A lot of these lines in the East Bay are BART lines. If you're in San Francisco, you got Muni, which is like a little train. You got Caltrain, which is the bigger train, which goes south down to the peninsula. You also got BART. Depending on where you're working, you might have to take a couple different parts of transportation, or hopefully you're working in San Francisco and it's pretty close. Top things to know about San Francisco. These are kind of some generalizations, but always wear a sweater. Or always bring a sweater. You never know if it's going to be warm or hot. Some neighborhoods, it might start warm and then cool down really quick. This is a big one. Consider leaving your car at home. Parking, there's more apartments in San Francisco than there are parking spots. That's just the way it is. So I tell a lot of people, you got to consider leaving your car at home, because if you're going to be in, let's say, Nob Hill area, if you do want to keep your car, a parking spot's going to be about $300 a month just to park it in a garage nearby, because you can't park. There's usually 2-hour parking, and then you got street sweeping coming every other day practically. You got traffic coming out, so you can't park your car at a certain time, and those towing tickets can be $500 to $1,000 pretty quickly. And again, like I mentioned before, a lot of the neighborhoods are very close. Like, things aren't that far apart. So not having a car is something to try. And then if you need it later, you can always get another one. We say summers in September. It just gets warmer in September, October, November in San Francisco. You kind of get the fog in the summertime, the traditional summertime, just because it gets so hot in the East Bay, it pulls the fog in and can cool things off pretty quickly. And we say brunch is the most important meal of the week. There's so many good restaurants in San Francisco, especially to have brunch all over, hang out with your friends. Waiting in line for a restaurant. Yeah, when you go to brunch, you'll see. Clipper card. A Clipper card is like this little card, and actually you can load it on your phone now. So when you go on a Muni or on BART, you can just click it and then it'll take the money out. So your neighborhood says a lot about you. I wouldn't focus too much on that, because getting your first place in San Francisco is the most important part. And then there's so much to see in San Francisco. Just get something that's convenient to work, explore the city, see where you really want to be. And then after a year, you can find a new spot, because typically leases are about a year. Go on an overview of renting in San Francisco. So like I said, there's lots of possibilities. We have studios, junior 1-bedrooms. This is like a junior 1-bedroom with a little cove back there. 1-bedrooms, 2-bedrooms, 3 bedrooms and up are a lot less typical. So if you're thinking about rooming with a lot of people, these ones, 3-bedroom, 4 bedrooms, are a little more difficult to find. They're definitely less common. Like I said, most of the buildings were built in the early 1900s. So things that families lived in that were 4 bedrooms over time, a lot have been chopped up into smaller units. And so those are a little more hard to find. And then it says plus office. Some units have like a 1 bedroom plus den or 1 bedroom plus office, a little more space in those. Lease options. So San Francisco is a very tenant protected city. And so typical leases that are rent controlled, and rent controlled goes for units that are built before 1980. It's a 12-month lease, and after that, it just goes month to month. And there is some options for 7 to 11 months also on a case-by-case basis. But if that's something that you are interested in, just let me know and we can work something out. Again, they're rent controlled. You can find more about that at sfrb.org. But short story is that the rent can't go up more than 3% per year. And the city sets those rates every year. So every year we find out like what's the max rent rate it can go up. I think this year is 2.6% that rents can go up. And that's per year. So you're only going to get one increase every 12 months, if that. Some of the perks at Rent SF Now, we are pet friendly, and most apartments welcome the pets. We're tech friendly. You can apply online. You can sign your lease online. You can pay your rent online. So even though we do have a lot of old buildings, we're very modern as far as it comes to property management and being able to get things done. You can also do maintenance requests online or through your phone. And like I said, a lot of these places have been renovated, and we want to keep them renovated. We want to keep them nice. So if your dishwasher goes out, your washer dryer, or something happens, you do a maintenance report, or you can let your resident manager know. We'll definitely get that fixed right away. For units without laundry in the unit, we have almost all of our units now. You can pay with your phone. There's like a little QR code. You can get an app. You can pay for your laundry through there, which is kind of cool. And then you can also get notifications when your laundry's done, so you don't end up leaving it there, getting all mildewy. So that's kind of cool too. And those are usually run by a third party. So we're always going to have them fixed or replaced if something does go down. The Bilt credit card. This is kind of a cool thing that we partnered with this credit card company. And basically it's a credit card you can use to pay your rent. I got one myself, and there's no extra fees to pay with the card. So traditionally, like if you pay your rent with the credit card, you're going to get a 3% fee, which is a lot if it's, whatever, $2,000 bill. So this credit card you can pay, and then you can earn perks with it, travel rewards, stuff like that. That's optional. It's not mandatory, but it's kind of a cool thing. And like I said, we have on-site resident managers or local resident managers. So that's people that are easily accessible, and like they care about the building, they care about their tenants, they want everyone to get along. So they're going to be around too. We're not going to leave you hanging. Searching for your ideal apartment. The what, when, and how. So don't call me up if you're looking for an apartment in September. You're way too soon. You typically need to look for an apartment about 30 days prior to moving in. And, if you see something today, it could be gone by the time you actually go to see the apartment. However, since we do have so many units, we can usually either, if that does happen, we can show you more units that are similar, and kind of find something in your price range, your preference, something that fits your budget as well as your neighborhood and things like that. There is competition. A lot of people are moving to San Francisco. Despite the news of the layoffs and things like that, there's definitely still a lot of people moving to San Francisco. There probably always will be, since it's such a hub for innovation and jobs and things like that. When you do find a place, you can apply. It's a $35 fee. However, it's a soft credit check on the application. So once you're approved for one apartment and you decide, I don't want that apartment, what else you got? We can just transfer your application to something else. So you don't have to keep applying and getting your credit score dinged. Like, since ours is a soft credit check, it's not going to ding your credit score. And as far as income and credit guidelines, If you are getting a new job, you can use an offer letter to prove your proof of income. Credit wise, especially if you're a new student, you probably have no credit or low credit. That's better than bad credit. Usually we say 600 score or more is acceptable, but we don't just look at the score, we look at the whole application. So don't be afraid if you don't have a credit score or a low credit score. Also, when you're out there, be wary of scams. There's still scams out there. I met a guy the other day who was getting scammed on the application. He applied for something and it was a fraud. And I've known people to get, they see a deal on Craigslist. It sounds like such a good deal. The person tells them, hey, I'm out of the country. If you want the place, just wire me the deposit. Don't ever do that without seeing a place. Make sure it's legit. And then also another thing on our website too, since the pandemic, we really revamped it so that a lot of them have video tours on there. They have 3D tours. You can kind of feel what it's like to be in the apartment, to help you with your search as well. Pets, perks, and more. We do love pets. I would say about half of our residents do have pets. There is a limit of 40 pounds. There are a few exceptions for that if your dog is bigger. It's more of a noise thing than anything. That's why we say 40 pounds. But if it's a ground floor unit and it's not going to be a disturbance to someone, we can make an exception. No aggressive dog breeds. If you do have an aggressive dog breed or you're not sure, you can always ask ahead of time as well. Cats, birds. We've seen snakes even, as long as they're in a terrarium. So pets are allowed. I was, on the map, we were showing where a lot of our apartment buildings are. And San Francisco is the only city where 100% of its residents are within a 10-minute walk of a park. So there's so many cool parks in San Francisco just to go hang out and just kind of see the beauty of everything. Golden Gate Park's a huge park. That's one. Dolores Park is personally my favorite. That's where I like to go. It's kind of warm over there. Fun vibe. You always see people out there throwing a frisbee or hanging out, drinking wine, playing music, all sorts of stuff. Alamo Square, that's where the painted ladies are for the full house. Patricia's Green. If you do have a pet, that's a good place to take dogs out. And also you can get a bite to eat afterwards in Hayes Valley. And Lafayette Park, again, there's just so many as you go up the hill and all over San Francisco. Getting in touch. So there's me. If you do want to get in touch about an apartment in San Francisco, that's my email, msimpson@rentsfnow. Also check out our website, rentsfnow.com. You can sign up for the newsletter so you can kind of be in touch about what's coming up. We've got some blogs on there too. That's kind of all I got for now. Should we open it up to questions?
Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to take yourself off mute or throw them in the chat. And I think I'll throw one in there. Mike, from your perspective and your experience with Rent SF Now, I know the neighborhood selection process is very personal, but have you seen any neighborhoods where a lot of recent graduates go to or tend to ask more questions about?
I would say in general, if you're trying to be on a budget, I do get a lot of questions about the Tenderloin and downtown area. It's mostly in those areas: Tenderloin, downtown, Lower Nob Hill, because it's closest to Financial District. So one of the things too, without being able to get out there, is just ask about the neighborhood. Ask what I don't know. Just ask, like, hey, what's it like living there? Can you tell me about what's there to do nearby? Things like that.
Yeah, for sure. And then we have a couple here in the chat. The first one is, do you have any Oakland specific neighborhood or apartment search recommendations?
Yes, I do actually. Oakland's a lot bigger city. The hub of Oakland is probably Lake Merritt, and that's kind of where a lot of the older buildings have kind of been built. And so I would say if you stick around Lake Merritt, it's a pretty comparable to safer neighborhoods in San Francisco. Another nice neighborhood in Oakland is Piedmont and Rockridge. And those are a little bit up the hill, a little more sophisticated, I would say, but they still have nice little downtowns. I would say more of the crime is going to be like in East Oakland. That's kind of far off from Lake Merritt, but probably a place to stay away from.
Yeah, and then our other question in the chat is, what if you will be out of the country 30 days prior? Are there ways to find apartments earlier than that?
If you'll be out of the country 30, okay, yeah. So, I mean, to be honest, since the pandemic hit too, we've done a lot of leasing sight unseen. And I say that, people have rented through the video tour or a FaceTime tour or just seen the pictures. So there is ways of doing that. If I was going to do it, I would want to like do a FaceTime with the agent at least and kind of see, because the things you can't see from the 3D tour are like the noise, like what's it like on the street, kind of give like, okay, what's outside the door of the apartment. The only thing you can't tell from a FaceTime tour is the smells, but you can always ask about that.
Yeah, no, great questions, everyone.
Yeah, great. I guess another thing too, I'll just throw it in there. In San Francisco, we call it city living, and they're, like I said, they're old buildings, so it's going to be, in general, it's not like the suburbs. It's going to be, you're going to hear your sirens, you're going to hear people talking. It's a little more lively. So there's things, I guess, another thing to ask too, like, hey, what's a street like? Is this a really busy street? Is that something you're used to? I meet a lot of people that are from busy cities and they want to hear that kind of noise. It's like a nice background noise, and some people are not really open to that and they want something a little quieter.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And then in the application process, has there, in addition to the application itself, are there other pieces of paperwork you would recommend our grads gather before starting their search?
Well, for new grads, either get an offer letter. If you don't have an offer letter, you can always have a cosigner too. We do see a lot of students and new grads that are, sometimes they move before they get a job, but you got to be able to qualify. So a parent can usually co-sign. Usually the parent needs to make 4 times the rent per month or have a year's worth of rent in savings or investment account to qualify.
Okay, great, thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, if we don't have any more questions, just thank you everyone for joining us today, and thank you again, Mike, for this great information. Here on the screen, you'll see Mike's contact info, but we'll be sure to share that out to everyone who attended today. And then to find out about upcoming senior class events, be sure to check out the announcements on the class of 2023 Canvas page and be on the lookout for emails from me. But have a great rest of your day and go Cats.
Thanks, Yari.
And thank you.